Our second speaker is for the Labour Party, Sundip Meghani, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm really happy to be here, and I'd like to thank the organisers for this event and for inviting me. I'm also here, I'm glad to be here with my fellow panellists. My name is Sundip Meghani. I'm very proud to be a Leicester guy. I was born and raised here. Just in terms of my background, before I address the various points, I'm a solicitor by background, by profession. I trained and worked as a legal aid lawyer. I now work for the Independent Police Complaints Commission, investigating allegations of police wrongdoing and misconduct, effectively policing the police. I'm also a Leicester City Councillor. I represent the Beaumont Lees ward. I have just finished serving one full term as a councillor, and I'm standing down in May. However, on May the 7th, I'm standing for the Labour Party for Parliament in Harborough, Market Harborough, Oadby and Wigston. In terms of my family history and immigration and refugees was touched on, I'm quite proud to say it's a big issue for me. It's part of my family history. My parents came here as refugees from Uganda, and I was born and raised on the St Matthew's council estate, and that really serves to explain what drove me into politics, because my family had help from the welfare state, and we grew up with poverty, and I had free school meals and all these other wonderful things, the NHS, free education. This is essentially what's driven me into politics, into trying to make life better for other people and to make a difference. In terms of the various points, firstly, in respect of constitutional reform, and specifically the situation we have with spiritual lords sitting in the House of Lords chamber. Yes, I think there does have to be reform of the House of Lords. We are in favour of an elected House of Lords. Admittedly, it's not a priority for my party, for the Labour Party. We don't want to rush into it. I think the House of Lords does an incredibly important job. It's a breakwater on the behaviour and the conduct and the legislative process. We've got a great deal of life and work experience in the House of Lords. And as a solicitor, also we have a situation where we don't elect our judges or other members of the legal system. So it doesn't necessarily follow that rushing into a democratically elected chamber immediately or straight away will naturally lead to a better state of affairs. That's why I think it needs to be done thoughtfully, and we need to make that constitutional change. I'm not in favour personally of having bishops in the House of Lords. I'm very much a fan of the Leicester Secular Society, very much a fan of secularism and what that ideology is about. I noted that actually there's now going to be a woman bishop. There's a woman bishop appointed in Gloucester, so at least there's going to be a woman bishop in the House of Lords, so progress is being made, just really, really slowly. On point number 2, future of faith schools. I'm against faith schools. I've written about this. There was a poll done, opinion poll, 58% of people want them abolished altogether, and 70% of people don't want them funded by the state. I'm against them on principle. Christopher Hitchens talked about faith schools leading to a cultural suicide, and that would push Britain, push our country, our society into becoming a bit like Lebanon, a powder keg with tensions bubbling away under the surface. I think faith schools, by default, promote segregation. I'm more in favour of, over time, phasing them out, certainly not funding them by the state. I think children, young, impressionable people need to be taught truths and not to be kind of inculcated with untruths or to view science or any of these things through the prism of religion. On Newsnight earlier this year, I think it was earlier this year or late last year, there was a piece about 30 privately funded Christian faith schools in this country which teach that evolution isn't real and that the Earth is 5,000 years old, whereas when we know through radioisotope testing of lead that the Earth is 4.54 billion years old. So this kind of thing needs to get through to the future generation. On the EU, I'm pro-European, I'm pro-EU. I'm against an EU superstate. I think there needs to be a massive reform of the European Union. I think other parties, I won't speak for other parties, but others obviously, there's a lot of hyperbole and a lot of scaremongering about the European Union. Britain's net contribution is £12 billion a year. And to put that into some context, the legal aid budget, just the legal aid budget alone is £2 billion. So it's 6 times the legal aid budget, £12 billion net contribution. And it's a great source of trade and jobs in our country. On point 4, immigration. I'll take immigration, refugees and asylum seekers together, I suppose. It does need to be properly managed and controlled. We can't accept the world. We need high-skilled people in our country. We need to be compassionate, particularly on the issue of asylum seekers and refugees. And we need to do what we can, I believe, to help those coming here who are fleeing persecution. I mean, I'd be a hypocrite if I stood here or sat here and said anything to the contrary. It's because Britain is such a wonderful bastion of freedom and democracy that my parents were able to come here and create a life in Britain. In fact, just on that point, I was campaigning against the Home Office deporting one of my constituents in Beaumont Leys, a lady. You may have read about it in the Mercury. Evenia, her name was. She was forcibly sent back to Zimbabwe. I know other people in the room campaigned for her, and it's that kind of thing that we mustn't let happen. So it's a real difficult issue, but that's my view. And on the final point, what level of economic inequality is desirable? Well, who wants any economic inequality at all? Ideally, we want to create a society where we can eradicate in income inequality and poverty and all these nasty things. And my party, the Labour Party, it's a big thing for us. We're very passionate about this. We've pledged, in the final few seconds I have, we've pledged to increase the minimum wage to £8. We're going to abolish the bedroom tax, with the Liberal Democrats and the Conservative Party brought in. We want to abolish 0 hours contracts, and we want to give a 12-month tax break to businesses who start paying the living wage. So I'm not about hyperbole and sensationalism. I think we need to just have a sensible debate and actually try and make some progress and try and make this a better, fairer country for all of us. Thank you very much.